So in week 2, we'll focus on life purpose. So what is the purpose? Because it is to fulfill that purpose that everything in the ancient wisdom of Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, they're all there, and so is yoga. So we are doing it ultimately for fulfilling that. So what it is really to understand that. And karma and rebirth. So karma means, what is karma?
What goes around comes around kind of thing.
So yeah, that is one way we say it. I mean, at the very basic thing, karma is just action. So there's also one yoga called karma yoga. It will come in a different, I think it's coming in week 3. But yeah, so karma, so what is that really? What is the law of karma? And rebirth. So the rebirth is related to law of karma. So we will go over those things. And then we'll study more yoga poses. Then pranayama, that is the breathing techniques. And there's 5 airs and 5 sheaths. So our body has got air that is circulating inside. So based on whether it's the one incoming air, outgoing air, the air that is going through the rest of the body, like that there are like 5 different kinds. So we will study about that and how to balance them, and 5 sheaths. So that is the layers around us. Like one is the physical, the body, the flesh, skin, bone, this kind of thing. And then we have the energetic level. So there are 5 such sheaths that go higher and higher. So we would study about them. So also, if you just broadly, I'm not going over the timing wise, I've given it to you, you can go over it. Like how many hours we are doing this and how many, I'm not going into that detail, but I'm just telling you the focus, what is the focus I kept for that week, and why I have put those things there. Like I said, why I wanted to put Sanskrit the first, this thing. Chanting also I've included, yes. That's because I wanted us to have time to practice. So here, if you just look at the main, the breakdown of the time, we begin at 9 and we go on one session till 12. So there is no break in between, because taking time like that really makes us go into depths, and we are not breaking after an hour and a half. But then when we break for the lunch, we'll take a solid hour and a half break. And then when we come back, we'll usually have something like a theory, discussion, that kind of thing. Because right after lunch, I will not be doing physically moving around. So we will do that. And then there will be one break. So again, we are going from 1:30 to 4:30. So that's again 3 hours. Then there will be a 15-minute break. And then we go from 4:45 to 7. So these are kind of the official breaks. Okay, then we'll go to the week 3 syllabus. So here we'll focus on meditation, and we'll go over the yoga texts, like I was telling, a few of the texts I had mentioned. So we'll study a little bit of what they say, and we'll focus on postures that are the best for meditation. We're also going to learn the things that are used as preparatory things for meditation. So that is, chanting is one preparatory step for meditation. So that is why I created, see these 2 chanting CDs, and I call this Chants for Meditation. And so this, I created a 3 CD set, and not all the 3 are full of chants. In fact, the first one is all like an educational journey, just telling about what meditation is, what chanting is, what is the science behind it, and how chanting will really help, and why is it a preparatory step for meditation. So a lot of those kind of details are here, and this is like a mini CD in which I've just taken 3 words, that one phrase of 3 words, it's repeated several times in several speeds and several tunes. That's what this whole one CD is. So that is where the use of rosary beads, and we use that for chanting when you are repeating something over and over several times. So how to use it, what is the science behind it, why it is, what does it do to the mind. So we will learn how to use it, and that is called the japa. So we'll do the japa chanting, and these are what prepare the mind to sit for meditation. Without the preparatory steps, Like even yoga poses, of course, is a preparatory step, but without these, when you just go for a meditation class and sit, you may be learning how to meditate, but you will not feel successful in it because your mind is still not ready for it. So it's like we are forcing it, come on, you need to meditate, it's good for you, but it also needs preparation. So they are also mentioned in the ancient wisdom. How do you prepare through several ways? So we will be learning, focusing on that and learning, and a little bit of Ayurveda. Say when we also went through, while preparing our syllabus, we were going through syllabus of many other schools too. Just like you are also, you are searching, right, who is offering what. And we were also curious to know who is offering what, and we found one school. She has studied Ayurveda for 2 years. I have not studied, I know like very little Ayurveda. I mean, I know it is related to yoga and like it's a sister science, and Ayurveda really relies on yoga as the final steps of the cure, even though they have their own processes, but finally they recommend. My knowledge is very little. And we were looking at the syllabus, and there was one yoga teachers program, because Ayurveda is like pretty, it's like a popular topic now amidst the yoga teachers, and because all the yoga teachers want to master Ayurveda. We have not mastered yoga, but we want to master one more science, which is like as deep as yoga. But so many have asked, oh, do you know Ayurveda? Can you teach me? And I would say, oh no, like I know I'm from India, but I know very little of it. Like it's an ocean. I've not even gone near the ocean. Like even with yoga, I feel I'm just wetting my tips, my toes. I don't even feel like I've taken a full bath in it or something. So that is the way I feel in yoga. No matter how many years I have dedicated to studying, or like I'm always thinking and contemplating on it, and that's the reason why I even left my software job. I came to this country for software. So when I came to Rhode Island, I mean prior to Rhode Island I did 3 years. In Rhode Island I did 3 years. But then it's 12 years back I resigned from it. So I had been only doing this. So even after doing that, I still feel, oh my God, there is so much in yoga. I really don't know. I have no time to go through all that. I have no time to research. I have so many books. I have no time to go through them and understand and work on them. So when I feel like this, for me to take deep dive into another subject called Ayurveda, I'll be neither mastering this nor that. So, I mean, I would not even after so many years of teaching would venture into it, but we were surprised about schools that were offering so many topics in Ayurveda, and it's a yoga teachers training course. But I don't know whether they want to attract students, so they do that, but we thought, my God, they'll need so many hours to cover all these topics. These are so in-depth topics, They'll need a study for like at least an year. Like, how are they going to cover all that? In that. So, we were really shocked. Like, I mean, people are just probably learning a few poses and spending the rest of the time, like, working on other things. And that way, the people who come, like the students who want to learn, will think, wow, I'm going to get both yoga and Ayurveda, like, So I think it's more for that. I don't know whatever was their motivation, but I mean, that is something that I would not want to do, because to me, even the 200 hours that they say, it's like not at all enough to train anybody to teach yoga. It may be enough for me to give a solid understanding of yoga for your own self. But to prepare you to teach someone and pass this wisdom on, like 200 hours is really nothing. It's not even enough to scratch the surface. And how can you teach something if you have not mastered it yourself? Like, but that is the way, like, so to me, even the stipulation of Yoga Alliance of 200 hours, it's like, I mean, I don't know what are they trying to do, make quick money, like, because it's mushrooming, like, everybody is running a yoga teacher. Somebody who just, graduated, or like, they only taught for like 2-3 years, already they feel I can now train other teachers, because I know how to do like 50 poses, and, I know some basic breathing techniques, but I mean, that is how the yoga has become like so commercialized and such a commercialized industry, and it's like more to do with like money making kind of thing. So it's really shocking. But anyway, we are not going into those depths of Ayurveda here. Just to give you the connection between Ayurveda and yoga. So that will be our focus on how they are related and what role it has to play. So that we'll be just touching upon it. and the yama and the niyama. So these are again very major things in the ancient wisdom and in yoga, and these are the ones that tell the disciplines that a person has to have in their own life to lead like a healthy life, to lead a very peaceful, happy life, and the right attitudes that we have while we interact with others, anybody other than oneself. So interacting with others, other people, other animals, other plants, environment, whatever it is, what should be our attitude? How should we deal with things? How should we interact with those things and people? So it is a big science, because I told you yoga is a way of life. So there is so much emphasis also given on this. And while it may not be possible for us to master all of them, an awareness of it and attempt to at least incorporate one or two of them. Like if we hear, like maybe I'll be talking to you about 18 of those things. Maybe even if I just take one of it and try to apply a little bit of it in the life, even that will really improve the quality of your life. You would feel so fulfilled and happy, and you would feel like, every day is a joy to live, and you will be so accepting of things that are happening in life. No matter how horrible they are and how unexpected they are, no matter how tragic they are, like a big loss in the family, and still you'll know you'll have so much strength to take it all and just move on, having your life purpose in mind. So it will equip you with all those things, even practicing one small thing of that. So we'll be going over those things, through stories, through examples, through real life things. And Karma Yoga was telling this is one mainstream. See, anything there is a prefix to yoga, like these kind of prefixes that I give, these are all what is there from the ancient times. But anything else like other people give the names prefix to it, that is all what they have in the past 50 years, 60 years, 30 years, 20 years, whatever. That's when it's more to probably fulfill one's ego, or like, hey, this is mine, like I have created it. Like, so it could be to, just for their own self gratification, that these have come, but these are not what has been existing from time immemorial. So, and they have not stood the test of time. So we don't know whatever form and style they are incorporating. Of yoga, and karma is action. So, so this is the yoga of action. So we'll be just understanding it. And we actually, in our Yoga for Happiness Academy, we work on, for Karma Yoga, it's like anything service, for a common good with no intention of a personal gain for oneself. So we are working for this organization, which rescues child slaves. They work actually globally, and this founder, he won the Nobel Peace Prize for 2014. So so we are associated with him from last 10 years, and we go every year. When my daughter and I, we visit India every year. So we visit these people also and spend 3 days with the children there. So the children who are rescued from slavery are all for rehabilitation, for education. They all have their own, like a home, where all of them are brought and they stay there. And if their village has a school, then they are sent back to their parents. But if they don't have schooling facility, then they are retained over there. And the kids only go for some vacation to see their parents, but otherwise they basically stay there. And so that is what, and so we'll also be doing a little bit of like outside work, like 3 hours we'll dedicate, to do something. We do like awareness generation and things in many ways. So one way is we have this pennies for freedom. So we give jars away, in some shops to people, or like if you have a center and a lot of clients come, or like you are in a shop and people come, then we just leave it there, and this gives all the details, phone numbers, contact, like a website of them, us. So we just tell them like, drop any pennies. They don't have to drop dollars, just like 1 penny. So in shops where people have to have a few pennies, 7 cents, 10 cents, they can drop even 1 cent over there. So that is something, I don't know if in your wherever you're working, you have a lot of clients coming, or like other colleagues. Because when I used to do group classes, then my students used to take and leave it in their cube. And when other people come, they have change. Hey, I have some change, I'm dropping. So when it gets full, they would come bring it here. And then this was one way I was generating funds for them at that time. So yeah, we have 2 more spare bottles. So if any of you are interested, before tonight, you can take with you. So we would work a little bit on Karma Yoga and some loosening breathing exercises and more yoga poses.